Okay, welcome once again to the podcast, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and so excited to be here. This is Coach Brad, as always, and this is the Be Well, Be Safe, Be Happy, Eat Ice Cream podcast. It is turning to be spring, and the weather is absolutely gorgeous. So I hope everything is going really well wherever you are and wherever you are listening in the world today. And again, I always like to say I super appreciate you being here. I know there are a ton of podcasts. So if you're listening to this one right here, right now, I just want to again say thank you and appreciate it. And I've got goosebumps again today because I have got just another awesome, amazing guest. Her name is Kara Bitar. She's coming to us from North Carolina today. And she has quite the journey and quite the story, going from corporate warrior in corporate America to professional certified optimization coach. Quite a shift going from one to the other. And so we're going to hear her story today, how she did that, why she did that, and what we can learn about optimizing life. So Kara is an optimization coach and Kundalini yoga teacher. She holds a law degree from Duke University School of Law, and she is also a certified Kundalini yoga instructor, Reiki master, certified theta healing practitioner, and certified soul realignment practitioner. Kara, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy and excited to be here today.
That last one, soul realignment practitioner, I think that's something I could use. I know for me personally, but I think that's a big part of what we're going to get into about optimizing your life. So, Kara,
Mhm.
you've got quite the story. Once upon a time, a lawyer from Duke Law School, and I remember reading in your bio, you said you had it all. You had the money, the career. You were on your way to becoming a partner, the house, and yet you were just not happy. Not happy, and you
Yeah.
made this big change. So tell us about that. What was going on, and what caused you to make this shift?
Yeah. So basically, I planned since I was in fifth grade to be an attorney. This was like my plan. And
Wow.
I worked really hard to that end. Yeah. I graduated highest honors in high school, and then I graduated summa cum laude from college, and I published in a law journal as an undergrad, and then I went on to Duke Law. I published while I was there, and then I was recruited by, and I did take a job with one of the largest law firms in the Southeast, practicing high stakes corporate litigation. And so, in addition to the litigation that I was doing, which was very significant legal work, I also did a lot of work for pro bono work for victims of domestic violence, and I was eventually named head of that project in our firm. So basically, I achieved and had everything that I had worked
Yeah.
for my whole life.
Yeah.
Everything I thought I wanted. And I had obviously these things like as you go along in the practice, but like eventually really too, I felt like I had the respect of my colleagues. I felt like I understood what it took to be a good attorney. And like you had said, I had this like charming house in the city and I had this beautiful wardrobe and I could, go on these nice vacations and I was making a lot of money for me. Like it was the most money I had ever made. Um and so yeah, it was like on paper, if you were to look at my life, you would say I had everything.
Yeah. It sure sounds like it.
Yeah. And the thing was though, that I had supposedly everything. And yet I found myself deeply unhappy. And it was this very confusing thing because it was like, okay, I got everything that I thought I wanted. I got everything that I thought was going to make me feel good. I got everything that everyone told me was going to make me feel good, was going to make me happy, was going to make me fulfilled. And here I am, like deeply unhappy, like this, like feeling just like this cannot be my life. Like this cannot be what life is. Like I don't want to get up in the morning and do this. Like I don't, like it was just like this very deep, like this can't be what life is. Like I don't want to like this just and it was confusing. It's not like I had this great clarity of mind. Like I didn't. I was like, why am I so unhappy? And I would almost like look around at other people and be like, I'm somehow failing here
Huh.
because, you know, I have everything and yet here I am super unhappy. And the thing is, too, if you were to ask people I was working with, like, is this person unhappy? They would say, definitely not. She's doing
Yeah.
great. Because that was really that was definitely what I showed to the world, that I was, doing very well, that I was very happy, but like I wasn't. And so,
Yeah,
it
Carrie,
was like,
Can I jump in real quick? Let me ask you this,
of
this
course,
unhappiness, was this just something you were feeling like deep inside of you then? Is that kind of where it was coming from or?
it was like,
Okay.
it was like deep inside me, but yet it seemed to pervade everywhere. Like it was just such an interesting thing to experience because I'm literally looking around at my life being like, I have everything.
Yeah.
And here I am feeling this way. And the thing was, too, so it's not like leading up to this point, I was super just like loving life. Like I wasn't. It was hard work. Like my life was filled with like hard work. It was filled with stress. It was
I
filled with
bet.
me
Yeah.
constantly feeling like I'm not doing good enough. I need to do this thing to make it better. But it was like I had this idea that like, okay, so maybe things are hard now. Maybe I'm not super happy now, but once I make it, like once I get to this point, once I become this attorney and I like have all of these things and I have all this respect from people and I'm in this prestigious job and I'm making all this money, like then I'm going to feel good then. I'm going to feel different then. And it was almost like I didn't even really allow myself so much on that journey to really even look at how I was feeling because I was just so like, it doesn't matter because I have an end game here. Like there's something that I'm after. And I'm so focused
Uh-huh.
on that it was yeah, okay, this isn't great. I don't love my life right now. I don't love law school. I don't, but I'm going to get there and it's going to be worth it when I get there. And so, yeah.
But when you got there, it just wasn't worth it, you found. So take us through, how did you go from corporate lawyer to, for those listening, Kara is an optimization coach. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Did you
Yeah.
wake up one morning and say, "Oh, there's this field called optimization coach. I'm gonna become one of those or something."
I wish.
Yeah,
No, that is not what happened at all.
yeah.
So basically, it took me, quite frankly, years, but I finally left that job. And um, here was the thing. I didn't understand why I was so unhappy, but like the job was the biggest thing in my life. And so I thought, okay, it must be this job. It is, I mean, it was high stress, it was high pressure. It wasn't like it was just. And so I finally eventually got up. I don't know if you want to call it courage, whatever you want to call it. And I left that job. And I left that job without a plan. I did not know what I was going to do next, which is something that I don't know if anybody at that firm has ever done because the firm is so well connected and I had such a great resume. Like people do leave big firms, but they just move right into the next job. And so, but I
Mhm.
left without a plan. I just left with this like, I felt like, if I go to a different job, it's going to be different faces, different places. I'm going to feel the same. And so,
So you didn't even know if you were going to continue law at that point or what? You didn't know if it was law.
no,
Oh, okay. So what? Yeah,
yeah.
what happened next then?
So I left the job and I realized very shortly after I left the job, I was not in a good state of health. It was like
Mhm.
when that I had really tried to be in good health when I was like working. Like I'd wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I did yoga. I would meditate when I came home. I made my lunches to make sure I had a healthy meal. Like I did all these things to be healthy, but it was like,
That you're supposed to do,
yeah,
that we as health coaches recommend doing. Yeah.
yeah. But when it was like when that job went away, when that adrenaline stopped, it was like I just completely crashed. And I had probably been operating on adrenaline most of my life. Like I wasn't waking up in the morning like energized by life or energized by what I was doing. It was like I was like almost always like pushing myself. It was like that stress and that adrenaline, that's what drove me. And so when that went away, it was like I saw the actual state my body was in and it was not good. Like I went from being able to operate at this really high level, doing all this stuff, to feeling like I couldn't even drive somewhere. And it was like my whole
Oh,
body ached. And yeah. So that's the first thing that happened. The second
wow.
thing that happened
Yeah.
was Um,
Were you
so
scared? I mean, were you like when you didn't have a plan and you quit the job? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Were you
yeah.
terrified or, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I was.
I
I
can
totally
imagine
was.
so.
I
And
was, but
I
there.
don't want to ask personal questions or anything, but were
Mhm.
you your sole bread keeper then? You were paying the mortgage and the bills and all that?
So I'm married and I was married at the time.
Oh,
Interestingly enough, though, my husband worked in a different city. And so he actually had an apartment there. And the house was basically paid for by my
wow.
income.
So
Because I
basically you
based,
were the breadwinner then, yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was really,
Wow.
and I knew like if I left that, yeah, like I had a mortgage, I had like expenses. I mean, I did have
Yeah.
savings though. So it wasn't like I just um, left and like I'm not gonna be able to pay my mortgage next month. Like that didn't happen. I did have
Okay.
savings from my work. So, but yeah, so yeah, I was terrified. But it was like there was this thing in me that was like, you need answers. Like I wanted answers. Like I wanted to know. Like can I feel differently about life? And so, yeah, I did something quite frankly that I think seemed to a lot of people to be and to myself even. This is a crazy one, you know, leaving that job. But yeah, so the other thing that happened to me after I left was so you would think like, okay, I've done all these things. I have this Duke Law degree. I worked at this big firm. Like I did all these things. And so you'd
Uh-huh.
think that like having done all those things, I would have this level of like, I'd feel this level of value or self worth. Like, okay, I'm not doing it right now. I've left that, but that was my decision and I've done it. But it was like when that job went away, it was like every shred of what I thought of self worth and value, it just went right with it. And so I
Wow.
felt just completely and utterly worthless. I felt terrible about myself.
Wow.
So,
Is this kind of
yeah.
rock bottom, maybe, would you say? Or
So at the time, I would have said yes, but it actually wasn't. It actually
okay.
was bottom. Yeah. So seeing this that I was in, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. Like, what can I do? And so I basically made it my full-time job to find answers, to heal my body, to figure out if I could feel differently about life, if I could have a different experience. And so for a year and a half, I read, I researched, I experimented, I trained in different modalities. I got certified in different modalities. I like practiced them here or there at different like clinics and whatnot. I tried all sorts of things for my health, like the cleanses, saunas, floats, like and I also trained myself in how to do different things, like how to make different flower remedies and reading about the theories behind that. And just I did everything that like I mean, it's not like I did everything I could find. I did everything that like I found and then I like kind of researched some more and said, okay, am I really going to dedicate my time to this? Because like the things that I did a lot of different things, but I really dedicated myself to them. I didn't just try one thing and then throw it out. I saw all sorts of different healers and I went on like these different retreats and what I basically said was like, I don't care what gets me results. I want what I'm looking for is results. I don't care if it seems weird or off the wall or different, whatever it takes. Like, I want results.
What results were you looking
So I
for?
did that. I was looking for to heal my body. Like, I wanted to
Okay.
feel, like, I wanted my body to stop aching. I wanted to feel energized.
Okay.
I did have some health issues that's like I kind of had them for years, but it was like everything just got exacerbated. Everything just got way worse after I left that job. And I was also looking for like, can I feel good? Like, can I feel good about life? Can I be excited about it? Can I be energized by it? Can I feel like passionate about what I'm doing?
Hmm.
Can I feel good about myself? And so I had all these questions. And so I did all this for a year and a half. And when I say I made it my full time job, I did. Like, I understand what it means to really give yourself something. And I did that like
Okay.
hardcore. And so after a year and a half, I found myself in, this was so shocking, worse health. And I found myself feeling worse about my life
Whoa.
because, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm doing all these things too that like everyone says like work. Like, it's not like I was just like, I was doing things that like science said worked
Yeah.
and among other things. And so, yeah. And so I'm in worse health and I'm feeling worse about myself. And that was the darkest time of my life because it was like, when I'm sitting in that office, not feel like thinking like, I wonder if I could have a different life. Like, I wonder if I could feel differently. There was always that part of me that was like, well, if you tried something different, you could. Do you know what I mean? There's like this hope. But then after I'm doing this for a year and a half straight, and again, it's not like I just started this after I left my job. My whole kind of job, I was searching for things. I was just working full time at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was, oh my goodness. Like what I'm searching for doesn't exist. And, in this life, we watch our bodies deteriorate and we
We do.
sacrifice and we work hard and there's nothing, that's just it. That's just what life is. And it's not that great. It's not that great. And um, so yeah, after that year and a half, I did consider like, okay, this is what life is. It's not great. Maybe I should just go back to being an attorney because at least I was making money then. Do you know what I mean? At
Money,
least
yeah.
I know. So,
Share
so
real
yeah,
quick.
that's
It's
where I was at.
2000. It's 2022 now. When was this time period in your
Mhm.
life? Like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's about, it was about 3.5 years ago,
Okay, so not
maybe
that long
four.
ago, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was maybe 3.5, 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you actually, after a year and a half, you felt worse. And so, yeah, continue. What happened next time?
Yeah. Actually, it might not. So if we count that year and a half, it's probably more like maybe 2.5 years ago. I was like
Year and a
factoring
half.
that year in.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, and so I considered going back and practicing law, but there was this thing in me that was just like, keep going. And so I did. And I kept trying new things. I kept trying and like looking for results. And one day I turned on a Kundalini yoga class, didn't know what Kundalini yoga was. And the class, quite frankly, seemed odd to me. We were doing things that just seemed odd. But I was like, I'm game. I'll
That's
try,
right.
try
Yeah.
it. But after that class, I felt different. I felt different, like noticeably different. And so I kept taking classes, and the more classes that I took, the better I started to feel. It was like the aches and pains in my body started to go away. And I started to feel like energized. I started to feel like inspired. And so I went and I trained in Kundalini Yoga, not because I thought I was going to teach it. I just wanted to know, like, what is this thing that's having this impact on my life and why is it having this impact on my life? And so I went and trained in it and I did it more. And the more I did it and the more I understood about it, the more I was like, oh, okay, I see now why this is having this impact. And what ended up happening was it was like I'm doing Kundalini yoga and I'm getting more energized and I'm starting to feel inspired and I really started to have this clarity of mind.
Mm.
And I was able to look back on all of those things that I did and kind of be like, oh, okay, these things didn't work. Why didn't they work for me? And then I started to be able to see like, okay, what if I did this? Then what would happen? And what if I did this? Then what would happen? And it was like I started seeing like, oh, if I do these things, this is going to make a shift. This is going to make a change. And so I started doing them and I was able to then bring myself to even greater levels of like clarity and energy. And it was like, I started to see like, I can feel so different. I can have such a different life. And I started to really transform every area of my life, my health, my relationships, how I felt about myself, how I saw life. Like I started to feel internally worthy and valuable. And so what
Mm.
happened? Yeah. And these are things that were really just, it was like kind of looking at all the things I did, utilizing that experience, but also too is like I was just getting really like inspired and clear-minded in and of myself. Like, oh, and if I did this, and then what if I did this? And so then I thought, well, if these things are helping me so much, I wonder what would happen if I started to share this with like someone else. Like what would happen? What would their results be? And so I started to do that and I started to see, oh my goodness, this worked. And so yeah, so from that point I developed my programs and yeah, started coaching people.
You mentioned just a moment ago some of the things you were trying didn't work and you wanted to know why. What did you come up with there? Like why did a lot of that what you did that first year and a half work and all of a sudden or did not work and then all of a sudden Kundalini yoga came into your life and all of a sudden that worked. That was kind of like
Yeah.
the thing. What do you think was going on there? Why some things worked and other things didn't?
So I think there's a lot of kind of complexity to that question in a way, like why certain things didn't work.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I realized is I did not understand who I was. I
Mm.
did not understand how I functioned. I didn't. And I know a lot of people might say, like, and I would have said too, like, I know who I am and I know how I function. But like, I didn't. It's just the truth. I didn't. I didn't really understand and know myself, me. I wasn't tapped into who I was, like the unique individual that I was. I wasn't tapped into the guidance that I held. I didn't understand, too, how to control and direct my mind. I didn't understand how to utilize my thoughts to serve me. Instead, I was like run around by my mind. And so it's like when you're coming into situations, no matter what they are, and you really don't understand you and how you function, you really don't understand at the same time then what's really good for you as a unique individual. It's really hard to get some level of
So I think
results.
this is a good transition. I want to talk about some of the keys to optimizing life, which I know is your specialty, but I want to go back again real quick, back to your days as a lawyer in law school, that entire journey, that part of your life. Did you ever feel, I guess not, but did you ever feel energized or passionate or excited about life or any of that? Was most of that, do you think, coming just from your head then maybe? Like just something?
I didn't. I didn't really feel energized or passionate about life. So I didn't understand this at the time, but I understand it now. So why I chose to be an attorney in fifth grade? Like, how do you like? Why
Yeah.
would I know in fifth grade that I want to be an attorney? Right? I didn't have any. There was no members of my family that were attorneys. I grew up in a small town. My dad was a professor. My mom and dad owned a business. Like, there was no attorney. I didn't even think I knew an attorney.
Okay.
Um, but I made that decision not from a place of, oh, this is an expression of my creative gifts and talents in the world. I made it from a place of, I held the belief as a child that I lacked innate worth and value. I believed that I was like this defective, deficient, powerless being, and I had to go out and become something. I had to go out and prove myself. I had to go out and make myself worthy and valuable. And again, like this was running below the surface. This was like, these were subconscious beliefs that I held, but we now know that the subconscious mind is very powerful. And so that drove me. So it's like I was driven by this. I have to go make myself something. I have to go prove myself. And in my child's mind, I thought that the two noble professions in the world were doctor and lawyer, and I chose lawyer. And I did. That was really what I thought. I was like, do I want to be a doctor or do I want to be a lawyer? It wasn't like, what's really expressing me? I didn't even think there was something to express me. It was like, how do I prove myself? How do I make myself worthy? And so that's why I chose to be an attorney. And so that whole journey then, it wasn't like this was something that I was just passionate about or in love with. And there were people in law school who are very passionate about it. And I worked with people who were very passionate about it. And I actually loved being around them because like I wanted that. Like I wanted to feel that way about the practice of law, but like I didn't.
How long were you a lawyer, Kara? How long did you practice law?
6 years. I was
I'm
an
sorry, how many?
6 years.
6 years before you quit. Okay, so you quit
Yeah.
and you went on this journey basically of
Mhm.
self-discovery. But even after a year and a half, there was no success. And then you discovered Kundalini Yoga. And for you, you
Mhm.
started, and I can see the smile on your face now, you started to tap into some of the secrets of optimizing your life. So let's talk about that for a moment,
Mhm.
'cause I know you're an optimization coach. And very quickly, anyone listening, if you'd like to work with Kara, her website is karanicolebitar.com. I will put a link to that in my podcast description. So, what did you learn about optimizing life then that you can share with our listeners? What are some of the key takeaways from that you learned from your story and everything?
Yeah, so I kind of already touched on this, but the really the keys are this: understand yourself and how you function. And it's really about you tapping into you. So what I had done prior to understanding this is what I was doing. I was looking for all of these external things to like make me, right? And that
Mhm.
those external things are great. I love them. But this is this if you really want to optimize your life, so if you really want to express what you can actually express. So we have far more like I had far more potential than I was actually utilizing even in that job, that job that was so high pressure, high stress, demanding, like asked all these things of me and I did them and I performed. There's actually far more to me in my life than that kind of external thing. And so when a person really taps into and understands who they are, what their fundamental nature is, and how they function, that's where they really live the life that they can live, that they're capable of living. And so really what this is again, people might be saying, well, I know who I am and I know how I function. And so the first thing I would say is it's part of that is understanding our fundamental nature. Like, who are you? And so what the kind of messaging is that like living in states of disease, living in states of fear, or worry, or stress, or overwhelm, living in states where everything seems like hard work, or life even feels like monotonous or feels like a grind, or even just like living in states where you have moments of joy here and there. Like I went to the basketball game on the weekend, like woohoo, you know what I mean? Like that, like it's
Yeah.
like the messaging is that that's normal. It's normal for us to like live in these states. And what I would offer is that is not normal. That is not who you are. That is not your fundamental nature. It's been normalized, and we certainly see a lot of people experience it, but it's not who you are. It's not your fundamental nature. It's not a natural state for you to be living in. And so it's understanding like, well, who am I? What is my fundamental nature? What is like a natural normal state for me to be living in?
Can you
And
expand that? So, what, like for you, Kara, what
mhm.
is your fundamental nature? Or what is a natural state for you or for anyone to be living in then?
Yeah, so from a more kind of broader perspective, a natural state is like your fundamental nature is like your love through and through, your abundance, like your vast creativity. There's an intelligence and geniusness to all of us. There is like a creativity that we hold within us. When we like express and experience that, we're actually energized by life. It energizes us. Like, so our natural state is one of us expressing our own creativity, being energized by that expression of our own creativity, not being depleted, not being worn out. Like, yes, we certainly, our fundamental nature is one where we put forth effort because we'd be super bored if we didn't. But that doesn't mean we're like working in this like hard way where we're like just constantly depleting ourselves. Like our natural state is one of there's an ease to our natural state. It's like when we're living in who we are and we're living in our own creativity, we're living in the love that we are, we're living in the abundance that we are. mean, there's like an ease to that. There's a level of like flow to that. And so I know that people might be listening to this and being like, oh, this is so pie in the sky, right? Like, oh my goodness, like this, like this is like some, and I will tell you it isn't, because I've experienced it myself. And the thing is like, it's almost like I've lived two lives in this lifetime. When I look back, it's like it's such a vastly different experience that I'm having now. Vastly different. Like just how
What's different about it? Like how's
yeah.
it different now?
Well, so first of all, my health is great.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot of energy. I don't use any sort of like stimulant to give me energy. I really am kind of like high on life type of, like, you can really feel that way. It's possible. So I have a lot more energy. My life has transformed in that, yeah, my body is very healthy. Like the health issues that I had for years, I don't have them anymore. And I healed things too that I was told were chronic, and I would never heal them, and I have. They're gone. So so my health is vastly different, but my relationship with my body is vastly different. How I view my body, how I feel my body, my understanding of my body is different. My understanding of myself is so different. Like going from someone who thought I have no internal worth and value at all, pretty much. I have to go prove everything, and it has to come from all of these external things that I do. Like that's where my worth and value comes from.
Mm.
To really being in a place of, no, I'm worthy and valuable. It's not about what I do. It's just who I am. And my relationship with this experience has so vastly changed. It's like I walk around on the same streets or in the same house, and I feel so differently about life. Like I'm almost like, it's like I'm in awe with it. And, and again, this may sound like that seems so dramatically different from where I am right now in my life. And I know, because I've been there. I've lived these dramatically different lives. But it's almost like these things, it's like they're right in front of us in a way, and we're not even seeing them. And, going to, like, I was a person who was constantly like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. What I'm doing isn't good enough. It didn't matter what the people at work told me. It didn't matter if I had straight A's, which I had to have, or I'd like kind of lose it. It didn't matter. It's like I was never good enough. What I was doing was never good enough. To, you really can be in a state where you're like really like reveling in yourself. And the other thing too, and this is a big thing, is that, when I was working, I had to write a lot. I had to, I'm always writing these briefs or doing these things, and everything was just so like hard. It was like, let me just push this out of me somehow. Like, please let me get this brief done. Please let me get this thing done so I can just not be doing it. It was like it took everything out of me. Yeah. To do that work. It was like I would just leave work and be just absolutely depleted. Like, I'm exhausted. All I can do is go home and go to bed. And
let me back up real quick a second ago, Kara. I think this would be interesting for our listeners. You said, in the early part of your journey, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. How did you transition from the I'm not good enough to I am good enough, or the I'm not worthy to the I am worthy?
Yeah. So that really was a transition. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a matter of me, I like doing Kundalini yoga, and then it was a matter of me really understanding myself. And understanding too, also, so it's understanding myself, understanding my fundamental nature. And it was also too me understanding how to control and direct my mind, understanding how my mind worked, and understanding how to utilize my mind to serve me. Because really those were just thoughts. Like, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. And I keep, like, it was like running on repeat. And it was like, no matter what I did, no matter what actions I took, that thought was just there, and it was just running. And it was like, and I recognized, like, I really just, and people do this too. It's like, I used to, before I really understood meditation, I used to meditate with the goal of, please let my mind stop. Like, just give me a break from these thoughts that I'm having, and it's like, but now I understand, like, these are just thoughts. Do you know what I mean? I understand now, again, how to control and direct my mind. I understand that I'm separate from my mind. I understand how to utilize my mind to serve me. And so, yeah.
I want to tap into that a little bit, but I also want to ask you something else real quick. So how do you navigate life now? How do you know what to do, so to speak, to do next in life? Like,
hmm
how do you navigate like what your next step in life is, or your course, I guess? How do you chart your course now moving forward?
Yeah. So I really do that by utilizing my own internal guidance. We all have it. We
We
do. I didn't think I had it at all. I didn't think I had it at all. I really didn't. Like, people used to think, like, I mean, people used to be like, well, what do you like feel is like the right thing to do? Or what do you, I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Okay, like, this is irrelevant here. Like, I have a plan, and this plan is based on, what it takes to succeed in life based upon what everybody else has done and what other people have told me. You go to school, you get good grades, and then you know what I mean? It's like everything was this like, well, this is what everyone told me to do, and this is the charted path to success, and so I'm going to take that. And I did not believe that I had any sort of internal guidance, any sort of internal knowing. And
Mhm.
again, I'm not talking about things like angels coming down from heaven telling me what to do. Like, I'm not
Right.
talking about that. But we do have internal guidance that really does, guide us in our lives. And that internal guidance, it's super, super practical. And it's in the world guidance, meaning it's like, well, it just helps you it helps you navigate in a very practical way what you're doing. It's not this, and it's not something that I utilize only for like big decisions in my life. It's just like, you really are. You're guided throughout your day, all day. But this has been a very, very confused and distorted thing, again, because so many people just we don't understand ourselves. We don't understand how we function. And
Yeah.
I would like to just add that the experiences that we're in right now, if is showing us how important our own guidance is in a really clear way. And that right now we're in the technological age, or in the yogic sciences we call it the Aquarian age, but it's the age of information. Yeah, we're
A
just
lot.
inundated. Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
inundated with information. We have so much information. We have so many options. And the thing is, if it's not like you can just wade through the information and find the right thing. It's like, I'll just wade through all the information and then I'll know what to do. Well, first of all, there's too much of it. But second of all, it's conflicting. So we have experts now who they'll give completely different opinions, and they'll be backed by scientific evidence.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how do I navigate this? How do I navigate all of this information? How do I navigate all of these options when they're even conflicting? And you do it by tapping into you. Like, if you're just going to look for the external to kind of like guide you, you're going to be confused. And then the other thing that's happening is, under all this pressure of all this information, what people are doing is, in many instances, they're just following the loudest voice in the room. Whatever is the loudest voice in the room at the moment, I'll just follow that. It's like, well, is that really the thing for you? And so, and again, when I'm talking about this internal guidance we have, I'm not talking about this, again, this kind of airy-fairy thing, or this someone talking to you, or I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, we really do have that within us. And that might sound different to some people, but I can tell you that it's true. And that guidance, it might be too, like the guidance might be like, follow this expert. Like, this is the thing for you.
Mhm.
And again, we're unique beings. So what's for one really might not be for another. It's like with all of those things I tried in that year and a half, it's not to say that none of them work, but that really wasn't the thing for me.
For folks listening, Kara, I get exactly where you're coming from because my journey is very similar. In fact, that's how this podcast came to be. But a philosophy I heard a while ago that kind of helped me, that is getting what you're saying, Kara, is there's two ways to approach life. One from a place of fear, which is our thinking mind, and going forward, thinking I should do this, or which is also heavily influenced by society. Society says get the job, get the house, get the car, get the money. And then there's what you discovered, Kara, this coming from this place of love, which is this internal guidance. And I think that's really the key to having an optimized life, to optimizing life. This internal guidance, you use that term. I use the term intuition. Some people use the term heart, follow your heart, something
Mhm.
like that. But I think we're, I don't know, programmed or taught literally from the day we're born, at least in like the modern world, I guess, that you need to think and do this and do that, and have this or have that, and that's all we're trying to think of what to do next. And we just have to follow our internal guidance. I think that's really the key. I'm curious also, Kara, with your journey, all of us have friends and families and coworkers. What were your friends and families and coworkers and all that saying? Were they supportive, or were they like, have you gone off the rocker? Or how did you navigate that part? Because all of us are going to have outside influences too from friends and family.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. Before I talk about that, I do just want to go back to what you were saying about the, internal guidance. And we have been, the way like we've been generally taught and generally raised is like there's a lot of confusion around that. And I think
Mhm.
that's why so many people don't trust it, or don't trust that they even have it, because there's so much confusion around it. Um,
I would
and
agree.
yeah, there's a number of reasons for that. One is because, a lot of people think, well, I'm being internally guided, when really it's a subconscious belief that's guiding them. That it's not really their internal guidance. Or we have we also have these like the messaging that like our instincts are good for things when it comes to like being afraid of something.
Yeah.
Like, if you're walking down a dark alley, then, and your instinct tells you don't, then don't, right?
Then
But then we
don't. Yeah.
also have these instincts that are like really bad for us, like an instinct to eat a cupcake or an instinct to have sex, and like we shouldn't trust that. Do you know what I mean? And so we really have this like very confused messaging. And then there's also the messaging that like if you look in society, I'm sorry if you hear snorting, just by the way, that's my dog Rosie.
Not a
She's next
problem.
snorting. She's
This,
like I
this
have a
is
little
a
pig
dog
running around the
friendly
house.
show. This is a very dog
Okay.
friendly show. Yeah, I have my dog too, but she's
Okay.
asleep right now, so not a problem.
Okay. But also too, the messaging too, generally it's not you're powerful and The messaging isn't you hold within you great knowing. Tap into that. The messaging is quite the opposite. It's like you're not powerful and you don't know and you need to be taught everything,
Yeah.
and you're deficient and defective in all these different ways. And so it's like we've been so like misled in a sense. I don't love that term because I really believe in full responsibility for our experience, but we've and so it's like there's so much confusion around this that it's like no wonder people they don't feel like they can even trust themselves. And a lot of times they don't even understand what it means to hear themselves, which is why it's worth really delving into how do I tap into me and know that guidance and know it clearly so that I can trust it. So yeah, but back to your question about
Yeah.
family and friends. Um, so um, yeah, they supported me. It
Okay,
was
very good.
interesting. Yeah. So my husband was really my biggest support. Like I made a lot of money and it really, really impacted us when I left that job. And he just, his thing was like you're not happy. That's it. Like change something, do something different. And he just completely and utterly supported me. And it was, quite frankly, when he was supporting me too, at the time that I left my job, he was in a different job than he is now, and he was making less money. And so it was like I mean, it was a big hit to our lives. And it was like he just fully supported me. And then my family supported me. And my colleagues did too. They
Wow.
did.
Wow.
Yeah, they did. They were like, you know what? You do what you need to do. And when I finally put in my notice, it was so interesting how all of a sudden people started coming into my office and shutting the door and being like, this is like, I don't really know that I'm really that happy either. It was like, which was shocking to me because they all seemed in my mind. So I thought they just like, had it made and were super happy. And there are some people in that job, just I know them, I met them, I worked with them. They absolutely loved what they were doing. They thrived on it. It was their passion.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's understanding ourselves. Is that the thing? Like, what's the thing for us?
Yeah, sometimes we fall into our career trajectory, so to speak, kind of by chance or by luck to a certain degree. Kara, would you
Yeah.
say then, I need to kind of start wrapping things up here, but I do have a couple more things I want to ask you. But would you say kind of then the ultimate, if I could say, the secret to happiness, I guess if I want to call it that, or the key to happiness then, because everyone is asking, how do I be happy? How do I be happy?
Mhm.
The key to happiness, would you say, is it tapping into this internal guidance then, or what would you say then about what is the key to
I
happiness?
would, yeah, I would say that's a piece of it. I
Mm,
would say really the key is know you and be you. Make your my number one priority is to know me and be and express me. Be and express the creativity that I hold. Be express the love that I hold. Be and express the worthiness and value that I am, and the innate joy that I hold as well. So I would say, and there's a complex, like we're complex and dynamic beings, and so I would say like internal guidance is a piece of that.
yeah. I often tell people ask me, what is my purpose in life? Or I want to know my purpose. And I answer that now the same for everyone. Your purpose is to be who you are. And so
Yeah.
who are you, discovering self discovery. So let me ask you one more question. So during this time, after you quit your job and this whole, journey of discovery into becoming an optimization coach, did you ever have fear, doubts, insecurities? Hey, this isn't going to work, or, did you have any of that? And how did you overcome, I guess, some of those fears and doubts and insecurities?
Oh yeah, I've had them all the time. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And anytime we step into something new, the mind it puts us into fear because it's not something that we can survive. And so part of it was just me understanding, like, okay, if I'm afraid of something, like, I mean, in some instances, there are legitimate reasons to be afraid of something. But in this instance, like, if I'm not being chased by a tiger, right? Like, it's like if I'm afraid of something, what I started to do was I really started to like embrace that and almost like, oh, I'm afraid of this. Why? It's like me stepping into something new. And I've realized over the course of doing this is that like, it's really when you step into and do those things that you're afraid of, you step into and do those things that are uncomfortable, like that's really where you get transformation. Like that's really where you really like find yourself. What the mind will just keep you in sameness in many instances because it's your comfort zone. And so,
I read something this morning that kind of excited me. It was said, set goals that are just so crazy out there that you have absolutely no idea how to achieve them. And then
mhm.
use that internal guidance to kind of guide you into achieving that. Kara, this has been awesome having you on the podcast today. I so appreciate it. Unfortunately, we have a time limit, I guess, or time starts to run out. But one final question, I guess you've told our listeners a lot. Is there anything else that you would like to say or offer up, or anything that you haven't said already about this crazy journey called life, or anything else? Go to law
um,
school, maybe? No, I'm kidding.
wait, what'd you say? What'd you say?
Go to law school? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, my advice is go to law school, become an
Yeah.
attorney, no matter
There
what.
you
No matter what.
go.
Yeah, I would just encourage people. Like you hold within you great knowing, you hold within you great creativity. Like it's there, it exists right here, right now. There's nothing you have to go like become for that. Like it's there. And you can tap into it. And I know we have all these other things that we make priorities. And I know that, tapping into something like that or making that your priority might make you uncomfortable or it might make you afraid. But like, really, it's where everything is at. And
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. The kind of sum of that up for those listening, we have this internalness, I guess, for lack of a better word, that does have the answers, it does have the path. And you mentioned just now, Kara, tapping into that. And for me, the way I do that, at least, is I just listen to what I'm feeling, I guess. What am I feeling? You mentioned, earlier, Kara, how does this feel? And I always tell people, how does that feel? Does that feel right to go down that path, or does that feel right to make, this decision or something? So,
Yeah.
yeah, tapping into that internal guidance, the knowingness is there, the path is there. So, Kara, this has been awesome. Thank you again. Anyone wishing to work with Kara, she is a certified optimization coach, soul realignment practitioner. You can find her at karanicolebatar.com. I'll put a link to that in my podcast description. Kara, it's been awesome. This has been a really, really great podcast. I've learned a ton too. I love doing these because I always learn a ton, talking from all of you. Wonderful people. karanicolebatar.com. Again, if you've been listening, thanks so much for being here. I super appreciate it. Ton of good stuff. Reach out to Kara if you're looking for, how to figure out this crazy journey we call life and how to navigate it. And if it's your internal guidance to go to law school, then maybe that's what Karen will coach you up at. But in the meantime, again, thank you so much, everyone. And as I always say, until next time, this is Coach Brad saying, be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Take care, everyone. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.